All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tropic Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday. What is today's date? It is the 18th, and this is just member only today. So maybe I'll go into a little bit more thoughts of the price action. Ultimately, there really isn't much change, other than a couple of things that I've already said today, which is that, right now that every time this market tries to bounce a little bit, it is just met with sellers. And there's just, I hate to say this, like, it's the old saying, more buyers versus sellers. There's more aggressive or motivated sellers than there is buyers right now. And, this is just something that the market is going through right now. Eventually this will change. But for now, I will give you a couple things that I think are important to kind of watch. And, again, we're seeing this. It's very difficult because, the market started up about 20 basis points today. That's it. Like, so not a big gap up. But if you look at the breadth for the day, I'm looking at Netflix right now, but breadth opens up. So all the way in the bottom of the screen, breadth opens up positive, and it's just kind of deteriorating as the day goes on. How many times have I used that word in the last couple of weeks? Deteriorate, right? We started to see that a couple of weeks ago when some names started to break the 50-day moving average, right? Kind of caught that, like names like Costco, Visa, right? And then, we've seen just a lot of names, spill lower. And in fact, like really that's what I'm seeing, especially in tech and in growth. Just a lot of names, pull back quite a bit, so I will go through some names that I'm seeing that in, and why I just think that, you have to be patient with this market and try not to, get too worn out as we're going lower, because, I'm even like cracking some jokes and, after hours in the room, because you just kind of have to keep things light and not get like super stressed out whenever the market dips. Like it does wear, it wears on you, or at least it wears on me as a trader when everybody's kind of looking to kind of spot that turn in the market, and you just kind of have to let this work its way through. So, we are going a little bit past this version point of control, which I, initially, wanted to see kind of stabilization and maybe a bounce back up here. And even if we did bounce back up here, you still have to be a seller, in my opinion, because I don't think that we're going to get back into this value area right away. I think it's going to take some time. But here's where we are for the S&P, and this. So the reason why I've got some of these moving averages on my charts is because, we talked about for a long time that the price was really behaving the 20-day moving average. Every time it got down here, it would bounce. Well, not every time, because we did finally break it, but there's about 5 or 6 different times here that we got to the 20-day moving average and bounced. Here, notice that we're trending now below the 5-period moving average. So by definition, right, or how I use it is when I see price trending below the 5-period moving average, sellers are in control of this market. And you just kind of have to wait until those sellers are basically done. And, looking at today's price action, you can basically see that they're not done yet. So it's tough because I know everybody wants somebody to tell them like, oh, tomorrow we should get that bounce. Do I think that we're pretty close? I do. I mean, like, I thought today was good progress, that we started to go lower, and that was the pattern that we've seen. And then we saw buyers kind of step in here, but again, there's just too many sellers right now. So maybe it's all, maybe it's after monthly options expiration, right? Because we only have one more day of the week, so it's another thing that maybe we get through. But notice that we could not even get back into the value area, which again, I posted this probably about 5 times at the end of the day, just talking about how difficult once you break through like this, it's just really tough to, unless that, there's not as many sellers in this market, you could do it. But look at this last one at the end of the day. Right, just priced as, and we're seeing just very, very shallow. This was one of the biggest progress, progress that was being made. And if you look at, like, for example, if we go back to the other day, right? Like even in here where we were stabilizing and going sideways, the market just is not ready to turn higher yet, right? So that's the part of where the market can really wear you out a bit, right? And so you just kind of have to roll with it, right, until you actually see that. And again, there's going to be some false signals like this was today, right? And I made mention as we started to break lower in here, this is just, please make sure like you're not abandoning your risk. Like if you see the market turn up and you're like, aha, we got the turn, make sure that you're putting those downside alerts. And I had to take off a trade today. So while regardless of like, I think that I'm starting to see some setups, right? Like Caterpillar was one name that I want to get involved in, like a couple names here. And this is still holding here. So I guess I didn't have to take it off. It's still holding above this 354, but tomorrow's another day, right? I don't have to time these things perfectly. But while this is holding above the value area for the April value area, it's not breaking back above the 5-period moving average. So there's no buy signal. Right. And that's the thing. And, I mentioned in the pre-market session that I didn't like what the Qs look like. Right. When we look at the Qs, which were showing relative weakness. Right. I mean, it could be like, and this is important to kind of map out, where could the Qs be going towards? This is another 2.9% down. Right. And, here's, that could very well be that that's where the Qs are going to. Now, again, they may not go down there in a straight line. They may, do a little bit of this and this and this, and then get down there. But I really think that this trend is broken for now. And I think that you're going to start to see like the moving averages cross below here. So, make sure that you're kind of thinking about this. Always go through like a scenario analysis of like, what could happen here, because that's what I'm thinking. And I just think if you look at Netflix, for example, like my point with Netflix, and I talked about this in the pre-market session, was that it's just gone up too much, right? That it doesn't matter what the numbers are going, like the numbers have to be like extremely positive because it's just up too much. So I put on a put fly for Netflix just because I think the risk reward for something like this is to the downside. It almost looks like a Head and Shoulders, left shoulder head, maybe not a perfect right shoulder, but and if you're not messing around with these names in here, you could possibly really set yourself up for like a good part of this year by not really getting involved in something like this. There's too many things that we've looked at like this where you think it's going to resolve higher and instead it breaks down. And that's the market that we're in right now, which kind of brings me to the next chart that I want to go over. So again, just kind of going over, this is another one where, let's face it, the semis have had a great run this year, but they're very overcrowded. Like everybody's been, pull up Twitter, everybody's been talking about the semis, for months. So it's a very overcrowded trade, and it's breaking down. So you got to get out of the way of this stuff. There was a question about NVIDIA. I know everybody's focused on NVIDIA, but it's okay if NVIDIA actually breaks lower here. Go back to what we experienced in here, right? When we had a big run up in here, right? We did go sideways for a while, and then people forget about the stock. There's too many eyes on this stock right now. Right. And, if it breaks the 50, then I think we can go down down maybe to this VPOC down here. Right. So, where I would be wrong, and the reason why I go over these things and downside levels is because we're below the value area. And we're below the value area for all the indices. So you kind of have to think about where these things could go down, to the downside. IWM, VPOC being taken out today. And I had tried to trade for a bounce, but you could see the bounce is getting faded. So, so I've been through these, a number of times. My goal, of course, when the market breaks down like this is to try to protect some capital. It's difficult. It's always difficult to do. I even took off some more risk in the TTG trend portfolio just because it's okay to have a little bit of a drawdown, in my opinion, a couple percent drawdown. I really don't want to have a 5 or 10% drawdown in that. So, I took off, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I moved some into cash into from the TTG trend portfolio into the BIL. Uh, I must have an error in here, so I'll have to fix it because it says 101 in here. But there's just too many things that are below the 50-day moving average. So I just sliced off today like the worst performers. I took out Celsius. I took out RSP for now. Right. So I've got almost 20% cash back in this thing. And then again, just a buffer to try not to kind of give back too much more. And I may decide, if there's a few more names that hit stops, I may take out some. I may take out like a Cloudflare, which doesn't look that healthy. That's only 1%, but that's the name of the game, is to kind of protect while we're trending below these 5-period moving averages. Other areas that I just wanted to talk about, this Bitcoin, which did have an update today. But notice it didn't really take back any meaningful territory. And for now, this Bitcoin candle is just an inside day, right? And of course, an inside day means there's no change. Even though it had a nice green day today, it's still no change in the trend, which is down. When you can't, if you're inside the previous day like that, it's not great looking. All right, so I covered the major indices, and I think copper. Let's go to copper. Do I need to bring this up? I guess so. Copper futures, right? Still going higher here. So, if you look at the plays, it's just crazy. These things flipping around. This Oscar made a nice move. Did I put SCCO on here? So while copper is doing this, no, I know it's just tough when the overall market is weak. But I think like some of these plays, look at this SCCO consolidate. Now it's going to be tough because some of these names are going to be reporting earnings. But I looked at a couple of these things. They're just consolidating right now. I don't think there's any like major trade opportunities, even in this second. But I think a couple of these names, want to be paying attention to. I was also looking, I've been looking at energy, which I tried buying the dip yesterday. In energy, and it didn't really work out. Look at Weatherford. At one point, Weatherford had a full green candle for the day. So even this group, which energy has been doing a bit better, but still, like this is not done yet. And XLE yesterday looked like it was going to turn on the top of value, but that's not there yet either. So I know everybody's. I've seen people talk about the tech weakness, but energy and commodities aren't doing anything special right this second either. So, but once we get through this overall cycle of volatility, things will begin to kind of separate themselves in terms of where there's trading opportunities. But again, have to kind of get rid of the overall selling pressure that's on the tape. One thing that kind of caught my eye again was that the VIX was down today. So SPY finished down 20 basis points. Right. So the VIX down again. And so is the SPY. So again, like that's normally a pretty good signal. However, it didn't materialize today. But again, like I do think that there should be a bounce coming after when you see these types of things. When we get oversold, short-term oversold, the NYMO around 100. But I think you just kind of have to let this run its course. Maybe it has something to do with monthly options expiration, and it might set up better for next week. All right, so stay patient. Again, we'll go through things as they materialize. It's another thing too. As prices are trending below their 5-period moving average, right? there's no point in trying to perfectly time the turn, right? Wait until you've got a little bit of confirmation, and you know, and then you can kind of set up and go from there, right? And not to say that that might not be tricky either, but always, like, it's a rule that I've learned a lot is, you once you get down to a support level, right, you want to make sure that there's a bounce on the support level. You want to wait for some confirmation that buyers are starting to set up. Now, I don't mean retail buyers. I mean institutions control the market, right? So you want to see the institutional buying start to come in, right? You could try all that you want to try to guess, where a bottom is, but wait until until price is showing you some confirmation, right? That's separating yourself from being like a very, I hate to say it this way, but I try to really be give it to you guys straight, but trying to just go out there and buy the bottom with buy these dips without any confirmation, that's really rookie trading, right? You want to wait for some confirmation, and we just don't have that yet, right? And I talked about this. I can try to go back and let's see if I can do this. I haven't tried to do this in trading view, but I just want to give you one more example if possible. How far back did I go here? So I want to go back to 2020. I got to keep going here. All right, so this is it. This is 2020, right? This is what happened. I was showing this example for a long time, but same thing. Here's where this was the COVID crash, right? Price started to go lower. There was this little pause here. Fake out looked like we might turn back higher, and then we really started to go lower and lower and lower and lower. And again, like, I had a bunch of people back then in the room on this way down. They're telling me, I'm buying the dip today. I'm like, oh, okay. They're like, things have to turn around. I'm like, no, they don't. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything until price gets back above the 5-period moving average, right? And this went on for like a good couple of weeks, right? And you want to make sure, like, if you're buying the dip too early, like, you're going to run out of money. And a lot of people did. They had to quit the room because their account got blown up. So just very simple. Just wait for the price action to get back up, and look at all these VPOCs that were taken out. Right. Wait for this price action to get back above the 5-period moving average. Right. And again, look, you're not going to see, like, there wasn't major volume on that day, but it was just just keep it simple. Right. And some people are so afraid that they're going to be late. Right. That's that's very like Bush League trading. You're not like, what are you going to miss? You're not missing anything, right? This was the start of it. Rather than lose money all the way down, right? You don't want to have a big drawdown in your account, right? So again, a little bit of a drawdown, that happens. It happens to me on most corrections. But the goal is to live to fight another day, right? And losing a few percentage points here and there, yeah, of course, I would like to be flat for the month right now. I'm not. I'm down a little bit. But you make it back once the market starts acting better. You just don't want to get trapped. And again, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it's just textbook of like, don't buy, don't get caught, caught up in trying to find the bottom when it's not there yet. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.